29 people evacuated from this Holiday Inn Express after a massive fire breaks out in another hotel's construction site right next door. The flames are obviously out now, but this fire was so intense that it melted the side of this building. You can see even blew out some of the windows. We're told there's extensive damage inside as well.
On Tuesday, August 2nd, at approximately 3:30 in the morning, we were dispatched to a working structure fire. The first unit arrived on the scene, found a building under construction in the wood frame state with an exposure to a Holiday Inn to the east side. I was working one of my emergency service shift at Battalion 6. So my role was Battalion 6. I was the incident commander. Engine 52 was on the scene first, was the initial incident commander. I arrived briefly after them and assumed command for them. We pulled out of the station. You could see the glow, so we knew we had an obviously working fire. Our biggest concern was protecting the exposure, which was a Holiday Inn, knowing that the fire was already impinging on that building, and then knowing that we had occupants inside that we had to work to. So the first two units actually worked on protecting the Holiday Inn as an exposure, and then secondly, knocking down the main body of fire. Our third crew was Engine 45. We got them and car 957 North into the interior of the building to look at concerns, what the effect the fire was having on the building, and to start evacuation on the building. I assigned them to East Sector. Typically, we would look at basic geographical floors as far as assigning the sector, but we looked at, they were going from floor to floor, just get me an assessment of what was going on and what we needed. And then it was a matter of getting more units to the interior, and we ended up having 2 crews on each floor. When they got into the Holiday Inn Express, they could look out the windows and all they saw was a glow. So it was hard for them to determine was the actual hotel on fire, which it was from the outside, and it hadn't extended to the inside at that point. All of the windows on the west side have all broke and fallen into the building. So imagine with the heat from the fire and then from the water that we were spraying to protect that exposure, all the windows on the west side of the Holiday Inn were broken in. On both the second and the fourth floor, we opened up the walls and there was actually charring on the second and fourth floor. We had sprinklers going off that were activated by the fire on both the third and fourth floor. And then we had water damage throughout the hotel on first, second, third, and fourth floor. As far as the sectors, we set up North Sector was Engine 52, and they laid a line to deploy their sand gun. And then we had Ladder 37 assigned to North Sector also. They were flowing their master stream. South Sector was Engine 37, laid their own supply line and deployed their stand gun. And then we had East Sector, which was the basic Holiday Inn, the exposure. And we had Battalion 8 managing that, and in conjunction with Battalion 1 and some of the downtown companies working as a high-rise incident. We had a West Sector, which was Battalion 602. And kind of the challenges we had in the West Sector, it was a large free-burning fire, and then the access was not very good. We had one paved road on the north side of it, and the rest was just fields. So when we got over there on the west side, the building was fully involved. And then one of the biggest concerns, we had 3 elevator shafts, which were masonry, were unsupported. So we wanted to make sure we kept the crews away from that area and designated that as a collapse zone. And then Battalion 4 assumed occupant service sector, and they dealt with the 43 occupants that were evacuated. And then later on in the scene, we were able to get them back in to get their belongings and relocate them to another hotel. And then treatment was Engine 35. We had 5 PD officers that took in some smoke. From what we're hearing, they were inside trying to evacuate victims as we arrived on the scene. Nobody was transported. We had no firefighter injuries, no civilian, and no PD other than the smoke inhalation. You know, I think one of the biggest lessons learned, you look at this, you're dispatched on a working fire under construction, thinking it's going to be a surround and drown. That building was actually probably about 50 yards from the Holiday Inn Express. Just with the amount of fire, it did impact the occupied Holiday Inn Express pretty quickly. So I think we're looking at a defensive fire on the building that was under construction, and then we had to do offensive on the occupied Holiday Inn Express.